Queridos amigos, muy buenos días. Gracias por estar con nosotros en su programa Café con Leche, la voz de los latinos en América. Estamos transmitiendo desde Hermosa 1470, 96.9 FM. Les habla Lilia Galindo y me acompaña Thomas Elias aquí. Él es un analista político que escribe en 70 y tantos periódicos de California, 2 veces a la semana, aquí en el Antelope Valley Press, 2 veces a la semana, seguramente ustedes lo leen. Okay, let's start, Tom. Good morning. How are you?
I'm pretty good. And how are you, Lilia?
I am doing fine. Thank you so much. What do we have for today, Tom?
So you wanted to talk about the January 6th committee, and I think that's just very appropriate since it's going on right now. And I think one of the most remarkable things about this is how it shows the complete division we have in this country, how the supporters of Trump, who are now the mainstream of the Republican Party, they've basically taken over the Republican Party. They look at this completely differently than any Democrat does. They see that nothing has been proven about Trump. Nobody's encountered Trump giving an order for somebody to go and march on the Capitol and invade the Capitol. Yes, he said, let's march on the Capitol, but he didn't say to invade it. And they'll give him any benefit of the doubt they can because of that. It's the same thing with the Democrats. The Democrats will see Trump saying, when somebody says to him that maybe we should hang Pence, Trump says, well, he just might deserve that. Oh. Well, that sounds a lot like a mafia capo who gives an order and says, well, maybe Joe Schmo ought to be killed. That's not really an order, but somehow Joe Schmo gets killed. And somehow people invaded the Capitol and came within 2 doors of Mike Pence's office, and they were carrying zip ties. They were going to capture him.
How sad.
And
well, do you know, Tom, something happened and I cannot hear you now, but let me translate what you say, ¿eh? Estamos hablando de la comisión del 6 de enero que se está llevando a cabo, que estamos viendo en la televisión todos los días, que muchos a veces no entendemos todos los factores que suceden ahí. Dice, bueno, lo que nos está enseñando esta comisión es cómo hay una completa división en lo que es los republicanos, el Partido Republicano, y porque ahora los que son personas que apoyan totalmente al expresidente Trump, pues ahora son el número más importante o la corriente más importante dentro del Partido Republicano. Y dice, el hecho de que haya marchado ahí en Washington para el Capitolio y que se hubiese dicho que colgaran al vicepresidente Pence, dice, pues él no dio la orden, pero obviamente dijo, pues no es mala idea. Y dice, ¿y qué sucedía cuando en la mafia, dice, se decía, yo creo que tal fulanito debería de morir? Aunque no daba la orden, pues luego encontraban a la persona de la que se había hablado ya asesinada. Now you can continue, please.
Okay. Very strong parallels to Watergate in this. You see people using the power of the presidency to try and keep themselves in power in both cases. And you see them lying to try to keep themselves in power. And you see them doing any illegal thing they think they can get away with to try and keep themselves in power. It just goes to show that, in 50 years, nothing has really changed. It's the same people doing the same things. There's an old saying that, the more things change, the more they stay the same. And that's pretty much what we're seeing in these hearings. And it's disgusting.
Bueno, dice, queremos comparar esto que está sucediendo ahora con lo que sucedió en Watergate. Dice, es la misma cosa, dice, las personas que están en el poder están haciendo todo lo posible para mantenerse en el poder y usan todos los recursos disponibles para que ellos puedan continuar en el poder sin que nadie les diga nada. Es lo mismo que está ocurriendo ahora, tantos años después. Now you can continue, please.
Yeah. So Lilia, you would think that all this exposure of the obvious wrongdoing of the Republicans the last time they controlled the presidency would have a real impact in the election this fall against the Republicans. But that's not happening. The great majority of the people that Trump backs, that he sponsors in primary elections, they're winning. And Democrats appear likely to lose control of both the Senate and the House. And that's in the wake of what we're seeing here of the pure crookedness and anti-American actions of the last president. It absolutely blows the mind to think about this. It makes us look like a banana republic. It makes us look like Guatemala or Honduras or something, where they have governments that rise and fall, and you have strong men doing whatever they please. And we've never had that in this country. But that's what the Trump people want. That's what they're trying to get us. And that's why what's going on now is so important. If every Democrat doesn't vote this fall, then the Democrats are responsible as much as the Republicans if we lose our democracy.
Dice, bueno, y dice, y la situación continúa, a pesar de que estamos viendo todo esto en la televisión, la situación continúa. El expresidente Trump respaldó a muchas personas en las elecciones primarias y ganaron ellos. Es posible que el Partido Demócrata pueda perder el control de la Casa de Representantes y también del Senado. Nos va a convertir, dice, lo que sería una república banana como Guatemala y Honduras, donde quienes llegan al poder se usan todas las herramientas para quedarse en el poder, mintiendo, robando, haciendo lo que quieren para poder continuar en el poder, como los países como Guatemala, Honduras, donde ellos hacen lo que quieren. Entonces dice, si no votamos todos los demócratas en estas elecciones de noviembre, nosotros vamos a ser tan responsables como los republicanos de que se pierda la democracia en este país. It's your turn.
Oh, okay. All right, I'll start up again, Lilia. So, we have already seen some very remarkable testimony, and we've seen some courageous Republicans. In fact, I've seen Democrats who feel that Liz Cheney should run for president as a Democrat this next time. The only problem with that is she has no support within the Democratic Party, and so she wouldn't get any delegates at the Democratic convention. So nobody's going to hand her the Democratic presidential nomination, even though she might have a chance to win the election if they did. So we have to speculate on what the meaning of these hearings will be a year from now, or 2 years from now, when we think about them. Are they going to be as important as the Watergate hearings? Well, we don't know exactly what's going to be said today, for instance, when they talk about Mike Pence and the plot to hang Mike Pence, which will be discussed today. We don't know if there'll be some surprises that come up. In the Watergate hearings, we had a lot of surprises. We had people come up and tell us about the recording system in the president's office that nobody knew about before those hearings were held. We had people that nobody heard of, like Alexander Butterworth, who was the head of the FAA, but had formerly worked in the Oval Office with Nixon. And he's the one that told us about the recording system. So we may be in for some real surprises that we're not expecting the rest of the way in these hearings.
Bueno, dice, la situación ahorita dice incluso para Liz Cheney, que ella la ha hecho muy bien en reuniones para analizar qué es lo que estaba pasando. Hay algunas personas que incluso demócratas que están proponiendo que ella corra como presidenta. Dice, pero obviamente pues no tendría el apoyo del Partido Demócrata, de todos los demócratas. Pero dice, estas audiencias nos recuerdan muchísimo lo que sucedió en Watergate, y ahora, el día de hoy se va a analizar el complot para asesinar o mandar a colgar al vicepresidente Mike Pence. Dice, pero tenemos que recordar también que en Watergate fue muchísimas personas de adentro que son los que empezaron a mostrar qué es lo que estaba pasando, porque por ejemplo nadie sabía que había un sistema de grabaciones de todas las conversaciones que el presidente Nixon tenía por vía telefónica con alguien más, hasta que se descubrió, y eso es lo que hizo que se ventilara cuál era la situación real en Watergate. Do you know, Tom, I have a question. How come there many people who is coming to talk in these meetings are Republicans who were in a high hierarchy positions? How come they didn't say, and everybody was disapproving what former President Trump was doing? How come they didn't say, stop this issue because he's destroying the country?
Some of them did say it at the time, like the Secretary of State of Georgia told us about the call that he got. He talked about the call that he got from Trump and the pressure that Trump put on him, which was illegal and may constitute a crime. Trump could be prosecuted for that, and if he were convicted of that, then he could never run for office again. He would be ineligible. Then we might get somebody like Ron DeSantis of Florida, who wouldn't be much better, but he would be more under control. And that could be more damaging than Trump himself.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Well, do you know, I have to go, but it was really good. Miren, rápidamente estamos hablando de Ron DeSantis y Florida. Digo, ¿por qué si había tanta gente, republicanos, que ahora están declarando y que no estaban de acuerdo, cómo no dijeron nada? Bueno, dice, pues ahí tienes el de Atlanta, que sí expresó del de Georgia, el que expresó que lo estaban presionando. Thank you, Tom. It was a pleasure to talk to you. Hasta la vista. Thank you. Bye bye. Nos vemos, amigos. Muchísimas gracias por haber estado con nosotros.